Hello, my friends, and welcome to the very first episode of Playdate podcast. My name is Victoria, and I will be your host from here on out. I'm just going to start off by saying I'm so truly excited to be doing this. It has been such a long time in the making, genuinely, which we will get into, but it's been honestly such an amazing time crafting this whole entire experience up and creating this podcast from the ground up by myself. And yeah, it's going to be a very exciting journey, and I'm so excited to be sharing it with you guys and having you guys come along the journey with me. So without further ado, let's get into the very first episode of Playdate. What the premise of Playdate is basically about is honestly just talking about hardships and struggles and anyone who's in their life who feels a little bit lost or confused, and just trying to remind you that we are all in this together. We are all just regular people trying to figure out our life and what direction we want to take and the steps we can do to actually get there. So I'm bringing on so many different people coming from so many different walks of life, like mental health, entrepreneurship, love and relationships. We have music, we have acting, we have so many different things to discuss, and just talking to these individuals about their story and the moments of hardship, the moments of adversity, the things that kind of got them to where they are today. And hopefully sharing that can instill something in you to inspire you and, you know, push you and motivate you to be the best version of yourself, or at the very least, try and help you figure out what direction you want to go in and push you to take action. I know sometimes we all get a little bit stuck and feel like we're a little bit behind, you know, with social media and, you know, seeing these people kind of excel so quickly and feeling like you're a little bit behind, or that you're not there, or that you don't have the potential. But the truth is, you do carry the potential. We all do. I think it's about believing in yourself and, you know, keep chasing the dreams that you want to achieve and never stop. I think that's the main thing, is like, you have to be your number one supporter. Otherwise, who is going to believe in you if you don't even believe in yourself, you know? So I think I'm just going to start there, but that's kind of what Playdate's all about. Every single episode is a new Playdate. Essentially, we're going to have different guests come on and shoot the shit, talk about life, just have a good time. And like I said, hopefully it leaves you feeling inspired and a little bit more connected, and that you're just kind of chilling in the room with us. So I'm really excited to bring this to you guys. And yeah, we're going to get right into it. So just to kind of give you guys a little background about myself and who I am originally from a small town. I grew up there my whole entire life on a farm. Still live on a farm. We grow crops, in case anyone is wondering, because every time I say that to people, they're always like, oh my God, like, what animals do you have? I'm like, we don't got animals like that. We got crops. We rotate corn, wheat, soy, you know, the vibes. Okay. And I grew up an only child. So my whole life was very, very imaginative. I was very creative, very expansive with my imagination. And I would always find ways to entertain myself, whether that be imaginary friends, whether that be creating dance routines, anything and everything you could think of, like playing ball by myself. Like, I really just kept myself busy. And I think growing up in that type of environment, it really, I guess, influenced me to become the person I am today when it comes to, like, you know, being really into theater and acting and music and just all around arts and entertainment. That's been my life, my entire life. I was never good at math. I was never good at science, any type of like actual educational curriculum. So yeah, that is, I think, where I get it from, was being an only child and having no choice but to entertain myself. And aside from that, music has been my number one love and passion for as long as I can remember. Truly, I feel like I was singing in the womb. My mom always tells me how I'd be singing like Celine Dion at the age of 2 and like really just going at it, you know? So all my life I've been doing like musicals. I've been in singing competitions all across North America and choirs. And so eventually I started taking it a little bit more seriously, probably around the age of like 16. And I remember releasing my first song, and it was so, like, looking back, just awful. So not my vibe. I'm very much like R&B right now. However, this upcoming project I'm working on is much more, a little bit like indie, alternative, a little bit of deep house, a little bit of R&B. It's going to be very different. I want to be as versatile and diverse as possible in my music, because that is my outlet and the way I express myself. And I kind of want there to be a little something for everyone to enjoy. But yeah, music my whole life. I went to post-secondary school for theater. As I said, I was a little theater kid growing up. I loved the arts and I wanted to kind of pursue that full time. Broadway was always kind of the dream. And then after that, I basically just kept pursuing music. Honestly, it always kind of led back to music. So I've been working on that my whole life. And then fast forward to now, I found another creative outlet, and that is podcasting. I did it a couple of years ago with a friend of mine, and we started a podcast called Saint. And it was pretty much, honestly, the same premise as Playdate. Very similar, just, I guess, a little bit of a different structure and a bit of a different creative direction. So this is more of like a fresh take. So I'm super excited to kind of be feeding off of that a little bit and going off that same kind of idea, but just with new faces and, like I said, a new direction. Aside from all the creative stuff, my personal life when it comes to actual work and jobs, I'm probably at the same place as a lot of you watching this right now. I've been very lost and confused into what I want to do with my actual working life because, like I said, so used to arts and entertainment, but I need a job to fund those endeavors. And I also need a job to fund my life and pay my bills and all that kind of stuff. So I've really been struggling finding myself in more of a practical field. You know, I've been through so many different types of jobs. I know everyone says that, but genuinely so many. I've done hospitality, bartending, serving. I've done administration like reception, executive assistant, chief of staff. I have experience in retail. I have experience in sales. I got a little bit of everything, you know, and I'm still yet struggling to find something that is really sticking for me. And it's been a really hard journey trying to find that. So if that's you, you're not alone. Listen, like I'm 28, I'm still trying to find myself. And that's why I find the podcast so incredibly fun and exciting to do, because I really wanted something that could connect with people as well as connect with an audience. So it's a great outlet because it's storytelling, you know, whether I get to tell a story to my guests or to you guys, or the guest is telling a story to me and to the audience. So I think it's great. I think a lot of good things will come from it is what my hope is. And I've really just dove in 101% into this. Like I am so passionate about it that there is no way that I will let it fail. And that comes from years of prepping this podcast. I have been doing this probably for the last 2.5 years, working behind the scenes, prepping this. It literally is my child. I have been through so many highs and lows throughout this entire process of starting this up and then having it not actually start up and then trying it again and then it falls apart again. It's been such a journey and such a struggle, but we finally did it. And honestly, I've really come to understand that like there is no right time. There will never be a right, perfect time to start anything. I've come to realize that you just gotta kind of do it, you know, go for it. Do it when you're not ready. Do it when you're scared. Do it when you're excited and on a high of like drive and fuel. Do it even when it's unknown and when it's uncertain, because I promise you, you might even get some of the best results doing that. When I started this podcast, I was in the midst of kind of stopping things with Saint, and that was due to many different factors. And I remember one day, this is so random, but unfortunately, I saw a dead bird on my lawn. And I'm very like spiritual and I'm very into like the universe. So I Googled what is the spiritual meaning behind a dead bird, because it was just so random. I don't know. And it basically said it's the end of something and the beginning of another. It's like basically a transition phase that, you know, you're ending something, but starting something amazing. And it's transitional, and kind of gave me the sign of like, okay, I just got to go 100% with Playdate. Because at this point I was so wishy-washy and confused if I should or if I shouldn't, because it was still fresh that I was ending Saint and all this stuff. But inevitably I just decided to do it. So lo and behold, I spent weeks and weeks prepping, doing photo shoots for marketing and promo, and coming up with so many different topics and ideas to discuss with you guys, and, you know, deciding what creative direction I was going to kind of take this in. And, yeah, I went to go start it, and, you know, I was promised from somebody that I was going to have their help, and that, you know, I was going to have studio time kind of sponsored and paid for. I was going to have all this equipment lent to me for free, all this crazy stuff. And I was like, amazing. Never happened. Okay. So that was like one setback. Don't know why I banked on that. Honestly, I should we'll get into it, but just rely on yourself. And then afterwards, that kind of got me down. I couldn't afford to pay for studio by myself. I couldn't afford to rent equipment by myself or start my own. So I slept on it for probably about exactly another year. And finally, when I made the decision to find a studio to pay for these sessions, I ended up losing my job the day before I was coming to the studio. So that was another setback. And that one I took really hard because I was like, after a year, finally, I was able to come up with the money to start this podcast. And then I lost my job and I thought to myself, like, there's no way I can continue being consistent with this thing if I don't have a job to actually pay for it. So I was like, there's no point in starting it. So again, I slept on myself for another year. Actually, yeah. Was it 2? It was beginning of 2024. Yeah. No, beginning of 2025. Yes. Another year. Told you I was never good at math. So it was another year I slept on myself. Lo and behold, finally we are here. Okay. I finally decided back in December of 2025 that I was just going to do it. I was like, I have everything ready. I finally had a stable job with stable income. I'm like, I am not going to wait any longer. I cannot sleep on myself again. And there is no right time to start. So I just said, like, screw it. Let's do it. Let's ride the wave. Let's follow the momentum and see where we go. And that was the same thing with Sane. Like, I didn't know anything about starting a podcast. I had no business in that industry whatsoever. And we just kind of did it. And it turned out really good. It was quite impactful. I could see the way that the content we were producing was really resonating with people. And that's something that stuck out to me and made me feel so good about myself. And that is literally the goal with this one, is just to have people relate. I don't care if my guests have a big following or a small following, or in fact, no social media at all. I truly just want someone who has a story that they can bring, maybe a story that's unique or a funny story that people can relate to, and just have people resonate with that and feel connected and feel like they too are not alone in this crazy world. And I've kind of realized throughout all of this experience that every single thing that happened in my life has brought me to this exact moment. Everything from like schooling as a kid and being goofy and funny and vulnerable in front of people and performing live on stage got me prepared to speak here. Recording in a studio got me prepared to speak on a mic, and even just performing in front of thousands of people on a mic, that also prepared me for this point. I used to vlog, being in front of a camera and being comfortable doing that. Like, I feel like all these little things brought me here, and all these setbacks that happened were for a purpose. Maybe I wasn't ready a year ago. Maybe I wasn't ready 2 years ago. Maybe if I started then, I wouldn't have the same outlook and mindset that I have now, or I wouldn't have the same ambition and drive and passion for it. I wouldn't be as certain of it. So I'm really, really grateful that, as much as in the moment I wasn't a fan of what was happening and that it felt like the world was against me, the universe was really just working for me and really just had my best interest at heart. So I can't really complain about that. But yeah, throughout that time, working on Saint, for example, like, I learned so much in that experience in itself. And I think it's great. It's healthy. I get to bring it here. And I got to learn what it was like to work with a friend on like a really cool business. I think going into business with someone, whether it be like a friend, family, or a partner, I'm not saying that it can't work. It absolutely can work, especially if you have the same mindset. I think it's just a matter of like, you should be cautious because you never really know where it can kind of lead to. I think working in a partnership with a friend, there was a few cons, but there's also so many pros. Like, some of the cons I would say is just like, there's a risk that if you butt heads and you don't know how to work together, that you may lose each other in the end, or that you might fight a lot and it could ruin that personal relationship. One person might be really invested into it and want to take it far and have it as a passion, and the other person might see it more as like a hobby. Some people don't want to invest as much time and energy as the other person. So it's just a matter of like balance, I think, and really outlining the roles and responsibilities right at the very beginning, like who's taking on what role and who's creating content, who's rolling out the content, who's coming up with descriptions, whatever project you're working on. I'm just kind of relaying this to like the podcast world. How are we doing splits? Is it going to be 40%, 60% and I do a little bit more work, you would do a little bit less. You really need to find someone that you can depend on and feel safe with and valued by, and know that you're not going to be taking so much of the workload where it kind of stresses you out and things just kind of get frustrating and don't work. But then on the pro side of things, it's like you're creating something so beautiful with somebody and getting to experience that together, getting to succeed together, getting to elevate your future life together. And there's something so nice and special about that. And I don't think the experience would be the same if you do it on your own. Even like networking events, for example, it's so nice to go to a networking event with someone who has the same interests as you. And I always say this, but I truly do think, like, of course, money can make you happy, but if you don't have these experiences and this money and the flights and whatever it is, if you don't have that to experience with someone, then what is the point of all of this? Because I personally would not enjoy that by myself. So it was really great making things with somebody. It's also great to have someone that you can bounce creative ideas off of and have this nice creative flow together. And I think the hardest part about not doing Saint anymore is, I guess, grieving the future that it could have had. It felt really like a breakup, honestly. It was just like, we parted ways as co-hosts and we left behind this thing that we built together. And it was just sad because it's like there was so much potential to see where it could go, and we never got to see it at its fullest. And that was, I think, the worst and sad part about it. And yeah, it just felt like you're grieving something that almost could have been. And that goes for a lot of things in life, honestly. It's like such a hard concept to grasp, like whatever stage you're in life, and like the possibility of what ifs and all the unknowns, and that you'll never have the answer for that. It's a very like sad thing to kind of wrap your head around. But again, if you just tell yourself everything happens for a reason and the universe is working for my greater good, it's very comforting. And then you can trust when you look back and be like, wow, all of that happened to bring me to where I am today. That's like the most concrete confirmation that you could ever have. That really tells you, like, as much as it sucked, letting go, it also created such immense space to create something even better and even bigger, or something that you didn't even imagine that you could do. And it allows you that time to be creative and to think outside the box. I also kind of had to learn to let go of control a little bit, because by the end of things, like, I was being a little bit controlling and like, if you're going to do things, do it properly, get it done on time. Like, I'm very punctual and type A when it comes to that stuff. And I think I've learned that working by myself is so much healthier for me because I don't have to depend or rely on anybody else but myself. So if the podcast does well, if it takes off, if it's successful, then amazing. I can take that accountability because I know I built this by myself from the ground up and I didn't have help from anybody. If it fails, I too also take accountability for that because I clearly didn't invest as much time and energy and efforts into it that I could have. And there's no one else to blame but myself. So I think taking accountability and learning to let go of that control is like such a better thing for me and such a better way for me to work personally. But yeah, so it definitely feels very rewarding knowing that I've done all of this by myself, all the editing, the reels you see, the content that's posted, all the creative direction, everything in this podcast is because I chose to do it. And I think that's the best part about it is that, like I said, I don't have to rely on anyone or anything. I'm really excited for the journey. I'm excited to see where it goes. There's really no expectations. It's just more so like I'm just riding this thing out until it goes somewhere. And I'm saying until it does because I don't want to use the word ifs anymore. It's 2026. It's not about what if, it's about when. And in 2026, the motto is find a way. You will simply find a way to do whatever you want to do. If you feel like your rent is coming up and you don't have the money for it, you will find a way to come up with that money and you will pay it. Happens every time, okay? Same thing with like any bill, any payment. When you're in survival mode and you have to do something, you are going to do what you can to make that thing happen, no matter what it takes. So find a way, If you're stuck in the middle of nowhere. You're inevitably going to find a way to get yourself home. It really just goes in every single thing. If you want to make something happen and come true in your life, you want to bring something to fruition, you are simply going to find a way. So never fret, never stress. You are so good. And trust that the universe has your back, honestly. But yeah, that's basically it for this episode, you guys. I just kind of wanted it to be like a really quick intro episode on who I am, my background on Saint, where I come from, and what Playdate's going to be about. So I'm really excited for you guys to see it. It's going to be something that you're watching in real time happen and grow. And I'm so excited to continue this journey with all the amazing guests that I have coming on and with you guys watching and just seeing the areas that I can grow in. So if you guys have any words of improvement or of encouragement, any guests you want to see in particular, any topics that you want to talk about, please let me know, because I am so open and so willing to bring on anyone to talk here and just have a conversation. It's a safe space and it's a fun space. So like I said, some episodes will just be shooting the shit. Some will be more empowering and inspiring than others. Some will be about business and like how to start a business. Like it really will be an episode for everybody. Yeah. I guess that's pretty much it, guys. Let's find ourselves together. Let's do the damn thing. And just remember, just to leave this on a more inspiring note, like, please, for the love of God, chase your dreams. Bet on yourself. Do it when it's hard. Do it when it's unknown. And be your best supporter. Be your biggest supporter. You know, be your number one fan. Because like I said, if you don't believe in yourself, who will, right? So keep on doing you. Don't let anyone ever tell you that you're not good enough or worthy or that you don't have the potential and what it takes to create the thing that you want to build, whether that's a project or a business or anything in this life. You carry a gift inside of you. And I truly, truly believe that God would not have given you this life, or the universe. You would not be here if you were not strong enough to handle whatever life has thrown your way. You were born with a gift. You were born with strength and grit, and you will see the light at the end of the tunnel, no matter what hardships you are facing. Just remember that. And remember that you also were instilled a gift inside of you, an art, a craft, a skill, anything, because you were meant to share that with people. You were meant to express that in one way or another. You were meant to change someone's life with the thing that you were given, no matter how mundane it might seem, to no matter how extreme it might seem. So pursue your passion, pursue your goal, chase your dreams, and watch your life literally change before your eyes. Just do it. Just start. Just go. The worst thing that can happen is you try and you stay exactly where you are. That's the worst that can happen. And the more you try, I think failure is like the key to success. If you don't fail, you haven't learned anything, right? If you don't push your boundaries in your comfort zone, you haven't learned anything. So just do it and see where it goes. Do it. I dare you. Yeah, guys, that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining on and hopping on this really quick episode. Like I said, short and sweet, kind of a little get to know me and whatnot, but I really hope you guys tune in. We have incredible guests lined up that I'm interviewing, and I couldn't be more excited to share it with you guys. So stay tuned, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Ciao.